Welcome to the Journey Untold. Ever wondered how your favorite song got that fresh new sound? Remixing might be the answer. In today's episode, we dive into the history of remixing, from its underground origins to its impact on modern music. Welcome to the Journey Untold. Remix culture is booming, but how did it all start? We'll explore the evolution of remixing through legendary examples and the renowned remixers behind them, showcasing how this transformative art form shaped the soundscape we know today. The Genesis of Remixing. Remixing as we know it didn't just appear overnight, it has roots going back decades. In fact, modern remixing had its roots in late 1960s Jamaica. In the dancehall scene of Kingston, pioneers like King Tubby and Lee Scratch Perry began creating alternate versions of reggae songs. They stripped out vocals and deconstructed and rebuilt tracks, using effects like echo and reverb. These experimental versions, dubbed dub mixes, were essentially early remixes, taking existing songs and twisting them into something new and hypnotic. It was a revolution in sound, turning reggae into a laboratory for sonic creativity. As one historian put it, these producers popularized stripped-down instrumental mixes, which they called versions, by isolating hooks and layering effects. This Jamaican dub movement planted the seed for remix culture, proving that music could be reimagined on the fly. Around the same time, on the other side of the world, the early electronic music innovators were laying groundwork that remixers would later draw from. The German band Kraftwerk, with their robotic electronic sound in the 1970s, showed how machines could create music, an idea that would heavily influence DJs and producers. In one famous example, DJ Afrika Bambaata's 1982 track Planet Rock drew inspiration from Kraftwerk's futuristic grooves, blending them with hip-hop beats to birth a new electro-funk sound. This kind of cross-pollination was essentially remixing ideas across genres. Kraftwerk's pioneering use of synthesizers and hypnotic electronic beats had an incalculable influence on contemporary pop and dance music, setting the stage for the remix revolution. Meanwhile, in the Bronx, New York, another musical revolution was underway, the turntable revolution of early hip-hop. DJs like DJ Kool Herc, Grandmaster Flash, and Afrika Bambaata began using turntables not just to play music, but to transform it in real time. Kool Herc, inspired by the Jamaican dub ethos, started isolating percussion breaks from funk and soul records, the parts where the music broke down to just drums. He'd loop these breaks by going back and forth between two copies of the same record, a technique he called the merry-go-round. This kept dancers on the floor, effectively remixing live by extending songs into long instrumental grooves. Grandmaster Flash took this further with his quick mix theory, perfecting the art of backspinning and cutting between records to turn seconds of a breakbeat into minutes of danceable music. He treated the turntable like an instrument, manipulating vinyl to create something new, the very ethos of remixing. As Flash himself noted, hip-hop can take from any genre of music, recreate it, reform it, rearrange it. This turntablism was essentially remix culture before the term remix was common, turning existing songs into raw material for innovative new performances. By the late 1970s, the idea of reworking tracks had caught on in dance music scenes. Disco was king, and DJs wanted extended versions of dance floor hits to keep people moving. Enter the birth of remix culture in the recording studio. One noteworthy figure was Tom Moulton, often credited with inventing the modern dance remix. Moulton wasn't a DJ in the clubs. He was an innovator behind the scenes. In the early 70s, he started by simply splicing together tape edits of songs to make longer mixes for dancers. These extended edits were so popular that the music industry took notice. Moulton eventually became a go-to fix-it man to reshape songs for the dance floor. And along the way, he invented the breakdown section and even the 12-inch vinyl single format to give remixes more room to breathe. With longer bass-heavy versions of disco tracks pressed on 12-inch records, DJs now had powerful new tools. Soon, specialist remixers like Larry Levan at Paradise Garage and Shep Pettibone were crafting remixes that sometimes eclipsed the original tracks in popularity, especially in the clubs. For example, Patrick Cowley's famous 15-minute remix of Donna Summer's I Feel Love in 1978 turned a great track into an underground epic, stretching its electronic pulse into a hypnotic journey. These early disco and electronic remixes proved that a song could be reborn through creative reimagination, a concept that would only grow in the coming decades. From niche to mainstream, what began as a niche practice in clubs and underground scenes exploded into the mainstream by the 1980s and 1990s. House music, born in Chicago in the mid-80s, took the baton from disco and ran with it. Pioneers like Frankie Knuckles, often called the godfather of house, were literally remixing disco into something new, using drum machines and samplers to extend and combine records. In fact, Knuckles' early DJ sets at Chicago's Warehouse Club often featured him splicing together different disco beats and melodies into a continuous groove. That process of reworking old tunes for new dance floor energy helped birth house music itself. As house and its sibling genres, like techno from Detroit, grew, remixes became the currency of dance music. DJs and producers would swap remixes of each other's tracks, and entire nightclubs were built on the sound of familiar riffs flipped into new club anthems. By the late 80s, remix culture truly went global. In 1987, a groundbreaking track called Pump Up the Volume by MARRS hit the airwaves. It was essentially a remix built entirely out of samples, stitching together pieces of other songs into a new funky collage. It topped charts in Europe, proving that a remix, even an entirely Frankensteined one, could be a pop hit. Around the same time, British duo Cold Cut made waves with their remix of Eric B. and Rakim's Paid in Full, which added quirky samples and a global flair. That 7 Minutes of Madness remix became one of the first commercially successful remixes, even charting in the UK and beyond. Suddenly, the remix wasn't just for clubs. It was for radio, for sales, for mainstream listeners. Major pop and rock artists began embracing remixes, which marked a big shift. In the 1980s, artists like Madonna heavily used remixes to expand their reach. Early in her career, Madonna worked with top DJs. Her boyfriend at the time, John Jellybean Benitez, was one, to create dance remixes of her singles. Those club-friendly versions helped songs like Into the Groove and Express Yourself dominate the dance charts. In fact, Madonna loved one of Shep Pettibone's remixes so much she even edited her concert choreography to match it. By the 1990s, this trend exploded. Virtually every pop single would get commissioned remixes for different markets. A hip-hop remix for urban radio, a house remix for clubs, maybe an acoustic mix for adult contemporary. Remixing became a standard industry practice to maximize a song's appeal. Even unlikely genres jumped in. For example, rock legends U2 in 1991 had their songs like Even Better Than the Real Thing remixed by DJs like Paul Oakenfold's Perfecto remix, which actually outcharted the original in the UK. This was a sea change. A rock band's track reimagined as a dance remix became a hit on its own. The remix was no longer an afterthought. It was often as important as the original track. Technology played a huge role in this mainstream remix boom. By the late 80s and into the 90s, new digital tools made remixing easier and more creative. The advent of affordable samplers and drum machines meant producers could grab pieces of audio and rearrange them at will. Think of the iconic Amen Break drum loop from late 60s funk. By the 90s, it had been sampled and remixed into countless tracks, from hip-hop to drum and bass, epitomizing how a snippet can spawn new genres. In the 90s, computer-based digital audio workstations, DAWs like Pro Tools, emerged. And soon after, software like Ableton Live was purpose-built for remixing and live electronic performance. These tools democratized remixing. Now an ambitious producer in their bedroom could do with a computer what used to require a whole studio. By the 2000s, virtually anyone with a PC and some software could take a song's audio file, chop it up, pitch it, add new beats, and create a remix. This technical revolution meant remix artistry spread far beyond professional studios, empowering a new generation of remixers worldwide. The 1990s also saw the commercialization of remixes in full swing. Record labels realized that releasing a hot remix could extend a single's chart life or cross it over to new audiences. Remixes became a way to connect a smaller artist with a more successful one. For instance, when a relatively unknown producer got the chance to remix a hit song, it benefited both parties by combining fan bases. Superstar DJs like David Morales, Frankie Knuckles, Todd Terry, and Armand van Helden became almost as famous for their remixes as for their own songs. Their remix of a pop artist's track could legitimize it in the clubs and lend underground credibility. Remixes were also packaged and sold. Popular singles might have an entire remix EP with different versions, and some artists even released full remix albums. An example of remix Alchemy. British pop duo Everything But the Girl had a slow ballad Missing that got remixed into a dance track by Todd Terry in 1995. The Todd Terry remix became a global top 10 hit, far outshining the original version. Stories like that reinforced that a clever remix could transform a song's destiny. By the end of the 20th century, remixing had evolved from a subcultural experiment into a mainstream phenomenon. It was not just acceptable, but expected that big hits would be reimagined in multiple styles. The ethos had shifted. Music was no longer a static artifact, but something malleable. A song was now often seen as a starting point for further creativity. DJs were the new rock stars, and their tool was the remix. What was once underground had fully arrived in the spotlight. Remixing today, a modern landscape. Fast forward to today. The digital age has taken remixing to a whole new level. In the 2000s and 2010s, the internet blew the doors off the remix world. Suddenly, an aspiring bedroom DJ could share a remix online and potentially reach millions. Platforms like YouTube and SoundCloud became the new hubs of remix culture. A teenager with FL Studio or Ableton could take the a cappella vocals of a top 40 song, lay it over a new beat, and upload a remix for the world to hear. Many artists actually got their start this way. For example, producer Kygo first gained attention by posting unofficial remixes online, like his remix of Ed Sheeran's I See Fire, which racked up tens of millions of plays and led to his breakout into mainstream music. The playing field evened out. Remixing was no longer just for the pros in studios. It was for anyone with creativity and a broadband connection. With the internet's rise, we also saw the explosion of mashups and bootlegs. A mashup, which combines two or more songs into one, is really a form of remixing that blossomed in the early 2000s. Suddenly, you'd hear Missy Elliott's rap layered over a Bestie Boys instrumental, or Nirvana guitars behind a Destiny's Child vocal, often unofficial, and done for the fun of it. Some mashups became legendary. Think Danger Mouse's Grey Album, which in 2004 mashed the Beatles' White Album with Jay-Z's Black Album to create something startlingly fresh. It was illegal from a copyright standpoint. The Beatles label even sent a cease and desist. But it circulated widely online and is now seen as a landmark in remix culture. As filmmaker Kirby Ferguson famously put it, copy, transform, combine. These are the basic elements of all creativity. I think everything is a remix. The Grey Album exemplified that mantra, showing how two existing masterpieces could be fused into a new work of art. Around the same time, the mashup Numb Encore, combining Linkin Park and Jay-Z, became a hit. That one was actually officially sanctioned by the artists, showing how the industry was starting to embrace the mashup idea. Online remix communities sprang up, fueling creativity. Sites and forums allowed people to share remix stems, isolated vocal or instrument tracks, and hold remix contests. For example, a pop singer might release the vocal stem of a song and invite fans to remix it, generating dozens of creative reinterpretations in different genres. Remixing became a form of participation and engagement. As mashup artist Girl Talk, Greg Gillis, noted, "You have a generation who go on YouTube and remix music. Then other people remake the remakes. It just keeps going." In other words, remix culture in the internet era is an endless conversation, a back and forth dialogue of creativity. One remix spawns another. A great example is the phenomenon of remix chains on platforms like SoundCloud or TikTok. Someone remixes a song in a new style, then another creator remixes that remix, and so on. It's music as a living, evolving meme. By the 2000s 10s and now mid-2000s 20s, remix culture is truly ubiquitous in music. The global EDM, electronic dance music, boom, turned festivals into showcases of live remixing. Superstar DJs at Tomorrowland or Ultra Music Festival might drop bootleg remixes in their sets that instantly go viral among fans. Remixes often outperform originals on streaming platforms. It's not uncommon to see a note on a chart, like Remix by DJ XYZ, trending alongside the original artist's name, indicating how vital that remix has become to the song's success. In genres like house, trance, and progressive house, the remix is king. Big room DJs routinely swap remixes. A trance classic from 1999 might get a 2025 progressive house remix that brings it back to festival main stages. And remember those classic hits from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s? They're constantly being resurrected via remixes. Just recently, in 2022, producer David Guetta and singer Bebe Rexha took the 1998 Europop hit, Blue, Daba D, by Eiffel 65 and reinvented it as I'm Good Blue, a modern EDM banger that topped charts worldwide. It's essentially a 90s song with a 2020s facelift, a remix in spirit and style. Similarly, tropical house producer Kygo has officially remixed classics like Tina Turner's What's Love Got to Do with It and Whitney Houston's cover of Higher Love, bringing decades-old songs into the contemporary club realm with great success. These examples show how remixing bridges generations. A new audience gets to fall in love with a song through a remix that suits current tastes, while the original artists enjoy a resurgence of their work. Another modern twist is the rise of AI-powered remixing. We're now seeing the early stages of artificial intelligence being used to remix and reimagine music. There are AI tools that can separate a finished song into its components, vocals, drums, etc. in seconds, something that used to require skilled engineers, thus giving remixers easy access to stems from any track. Even more wild, AI algorithms can analyze a song's style and then generate a remix of it in a different style automatically, or extend it, or mash it with another track. We've heard experimental examples of, say, a Beatles song, remixed by AI in the style of EDM, or vice versa. It's early days, but this hints that the future of remixing could involve partnerships between human creativity and machine assistance. Additionally, deepfake audio has enabled something like remixing vocals. Fans online have used AI to make famous singers' voices cover other songs, essentially remixing the performer rather than the track. Imagine a software that can make it sound like Elvis is singing a Taylor Swift song. That kind of reality is here. It raises a lot of questions, ethical and legal, but it underscores that the lines between original creation and remix are blurring further. We might soon ask, if an AI remixes a song, is it less valid or just another form of creativity? In any case, technology promises that remixing will continue evolving in surprising ways. Remixing in other creative fields. Music may be the heartbeat of remix culture, but the philosophy of remixing extends far beyond audio. Remixing has become a powerful concept in other creative fields as well, from visual arts to film and even literature. Visual arts. In the art world, remixing often takes the form of appropriation. Artists take existing images or objects and recontextualize them to create something new. This isn't a recent development, it goes back at least a century. The painter Marcel Duchamp famously remixed the Mona Lisa in 1919 by drawing a mustache on her image and renaming it LHOOQ, essentially creating a tongue-in-cheek new artwork from Leonardo da Vinci's masterpiece. Pop art in the 1960s, led by artists like Andy Warhol, was built on a remix ethos. Warhol took everyday commercial graphics like soup can labels and presented them as high art, or reprinted famous photos of celebrities in bold colors. It was existing imagery, remixed and repeated, making a statement on mass culture. A more recent example is artist Shepard Fairey, who took a newspaper photo of Barack Obama and remixed it into the iconic Hope poster with stylized colors, an image so influential it became virtually synonymous with Obama's 2008 campaign. Fairey himself once said, "Every spoof gives more power to the original," reflecting how derivative works can amplify and transform the source material. In design and memes, we see remixing constantly. Internet memes are basically remix culture on hyperdrive. An image or idea gets remixed by thousands of users with endless variations. From an artistic standpoint, remixing in visual arts challenges ideas of originality and ownership, and it fuels creativity by allowing artists to build on each other's work in a kind of visual conversation across time. Film and video. Remixing has left its mark on cinema and online video too. In filmmaking, directors often pay homage to or directly copy scenes from earlier films, effectively a form of remix or sampling on screen. Visionary directors like Quentin Tarantino are famous for this. His movies are patchworks of references and reworked scenes from the obscure B-movies and classics he loves, stitched together into something fresh. For instance, the climactic showdown in Kill Bill borrows visual elements from 1970s kung fu flicks. But most viewers just know it as a cool Tarantino moment, a remix in spirit. Beyond professional cinema, fan-made remix videos have flourished with digital editing tools. There's an entire subculture of fans who create new movie trailers by re-editing footage. For example, turning a horror film into a romantic comedy trailer by clever cutting and music, which can be both hilarious and illuminating. These remix trailers often go viral. Documentary filmmakers also use remix techniques by collaging found footage. The documentary, Los Angeles Plays Itself, remixes clips from dozens of movies to explore how LA is portrayed in cinema. And on YouTube, some creators have become famous for musical remixes of video content, like taking dialogue from news clips or viral videos and chopping them into catchy songs. One well-known YouTube remix artist, Pogo, samples sounds from Disney films to create entirely new electronic music pieces, effectively turning nostalgic movies into instruments. In the broader sense, video editing itself has become a form of remix folk art online, with people taking media from here and there to express new ideas, from supercuts to vlog mashups. The lines of what counts as original film versus a remix are definitely blurry in the age of digital video, literature, and beyond. Even writing and theater haven't escaped the remix phenomenon. You might not see the word remix used in literature circles, but the concept of retelling or reimagining stories is essentially a remix. Think of how many novels or movies are modern adaptations of Shakespeare's plays. For example, the hit teen movie 10 Things I Hate About You is a remix of The Taming of the Shrew, and West Side Story famously remixes Romeo and Juliet into 1950s New York. Authors also do this more directly. Novelist Seth Grahame-Smith literally took Jane Austen's classic Pride and Prejudice and mixed it with a zombie apocalypse to create Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, a wildly imaginative and tongue-in-cheek literary remix of a beloved text. In theater, playwrights have taken older works and remixed them for new commentary. Consider Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead by Tom Stoppard, which takes two minor characters from Shakespeare's Hamlet and spins a whole new existential play around them, essentially riffing on the original work's context. Even the way folklore and myths evolve over centuries is a form of iterative remixing. Each storyteller changes a bit, adds their twist. Today's fan fiction writers continue this tradition, borrowing characters from popular books or films and writing their own scenarios. A practice that is pure remix culture, enabled by the internet's ability to share and build communities around these creative extensions. The future of remixing in creative fields is exciting. We're likely to see even more cross-media remixing. Imagine interactive virtual reality experiences built by remixing elements of existing video games and movies, or fashion designers remixing vintage styles with modern tech, wearable art that samples past eras. As boundaries between media blur in the digital era, the core idea of remixing, take existing pieces and make a new whole, is becoming a foundational creative approach everywhere. The power of remixing. At its heart, remixing is about creative transformation. It's a form of creative appropriation, taking something that exists and making it one's own. This can be incredibly powerful for innovation. By building on what came before, artists can make something familiar yet fresh, lowering the barrier to creation and allowing new voices to emerge. As Kirby Ferguson observed, all creativity fundamentally comes from the act of copying, transforming, and combining what already exists. In other words, nothing is 100% original, and that's okay. When artists acknowledge this, they can consciously draw on inspiration and push it further. One modern musician who embraces this is the mashup DJ Girl Talk, who layered hundreds of samples to create new songs. He points out that this communal approach to music making has led to a generation comfortable with sharing and iterating on each other's work. The social and cultural significance of remixing is huge. Remixing inherently challenges established norms of ownership and originality. It asks questions like, who owns a beat or a melody? Can culture really be owned? Or is it a shared commons we all participate in? Throughout history, dominant powers tried to lock down culture, but remixing breaks those locks. For example, early hip-hop DJs in the Bronx didn't ask permission to use funk drum breaks. They just did it. And in doing so, they gave birth to a global culture that transcended racial and economic barriers. Remixing can also be a form of commentary or rebellion. Consider parody remixes or mashups that make a political point by juxtaposing media in a new way. Even the simple act of a fan remixing a pop song can be seen as the audience talking back, adding their own twist to the story the original artist told. In that sense, remix culture is very democratic and participatory. It blurs the line between creator and listener, turning consumers into producers. In the internet era especially, culture has become a two-way conversation, and remixing is one of the languages everyone now speaks. Legally and ethically, remixing has forced us to rethink things as well. Copyright laws often lag behind cultural practice. We've seen legal battles over sampling in music, like the landmark case in the 1990s when Biz Markie got sued for using an unauthorized sample, leading to the famous ruling, "Thou shalt not steal" in music. But over time, even the industry realized the value of remixing. Many artists now officially release stems for remixers, effectively saying, "Go ahead and reinterpret my work." There's a growing understanding that remixes can enhance the original's reach rather than just steal from it. As one quote often attributed to Picasso and remixed by Steve Jobs says, "Good artists copy, great artists steal." a provocative way to highlight that the greatest innovations often come from borrowing and building on previous work. Of course, acknowledgement and respect are key. The best remixes pay homage even as they transform. When done right, it's a cultural win-win. The original gets honored and introduced to new audiences, and the new artist gets to express themselves. So what does the future of remixing hold? We can expect the boundaries of remixing to keep expanding. AI-generated music might enable remixes we can't even imagine. Perhaps interactive remixes that change based on the listener's mood, or infinite remixes that evolve in real time. The concept of remix might further blur with original creation to the point where future artists see all art as a collaborative patchwork. We might see remixing help preserve cultural heritage too. For instance, ancient musical recordings or public domain art being remixed into contemporary works, keeping them alive in new forms. In broader creative expression, remixing could reshape education. Students remixing educational content to learn actively, or even our social media communication. Think of how every meme is essentially a communal remix project. One thing is certain, remixing is here to stay. It has been a driving force in music for decades, turning old into new, underground into mainstream, and individual sparks into collective bonfires of creativity. It's taught us that art is not a static thing owned by one person, but a dynamic conversation across time. As we conclude our journey through the history of remixing, remember that the next time you hear a fresh take on a classic song or see a familiar image used in a novel way, you're witnessing the remix revolution in action. Culture builds on the past, and remixing is the art of building brilliantly. In the remix world, as one filmmaker put it, it's not where you take things from, it's where you take them to. The possibilities are endless, and that's something to celebrate. So here's to the remix. Long may it reign in music and beyond, keeping our creative world spinning with new energy and excitement. This episode was crafted with inspiration from a range of iconic sources that have shaped the remix culture, including insights from Wikipedia, PS Audio, MIT, What Hi-Fi, Davey D's Hip Hop Corner, Mixmag, Vilingo, Movin925, and TED Blog. These sources have helped bring the story of remixing to life, celebrating the art of musical transformation and its ongoing influence on culture. Remember, every first of the month, a new chapter of the journey Untold awaits. Explore what's next and dive deeper at movingelements.ro/journey. This was The Journey Untold.